Well, hello and welcome back to Rare Classic Cars. Today we're going to talk about this 1970 Buick Electra. This is the final year for this body style that came out in 1965. It would last through 1970 before being redone for the 1971 model year. So there's a lot of strange features and quirks about this car. The first thing as we walk up to the front here is this is not the factory center emblem. That's because the center emblems were all plastic, and you see how the bumper kind of juts out at that point. Well, unfortunately, many people crushed those emblems and they degraded naturally over time. So that's one of the rarest parts in General Motors history, is a 1970 Buick front emblem. And you can tell that that was kind of a problem because on these cars, people would often drive by the tops of the fenders, and that portion just juts out further. So you tend to have an issue with that emblem up front. This was also the first year for the high compression 455. It would last 1 year. There was the lower compression 455 that would last for 1971 to 1976. But the only year of the high compression Buick V8 was 1970. This V8 came out in 1967 in 430 cubic inch form. It would be 430 cubic inches in 1967, 8, and 9 before it would be enlarged to 455 cubic inches for 1970. Notice also one quirky thing about this has to be the longest body side molding ever on a car that runs the entire length of it with this diving line. That was a character feature that Buick had for many years. Here you can see it's accentuating a crease on the body side. So it actually has this crease that comes out, and it's really at the peak of that crease. But other cars like the 73 Buick Regal, as an example, would have that diving line incorporated into the sheet metal in a more pronounced form. But like I said, this is one of the longest body side moldings I've ever seen. It even wraps around the front wheel. This car is fully loaded. You can see it has the cornering lamps up front there too. It has the 4 Ventaports because it's an Electra. This is also not an Electra. Well, it doesn't say 225 anywhere on it. It says limited. This car was 225 inches long. If you got the standard Electra, it wouldn't say limited here, and it wouldn't say limited here. It would say 225 there, but all of these were 225 inches long. You can see actually on the little badges here, it says Electra 225. Now out back, there's an interesting feature, and that is these are the reverse lights, but they glow red when you just have the parking lamps on. So they're also running lights. And I thought that was kind of a cool feature of these vehicles that you didn't really see on other cars from that time frame. This car also has the wall-to-wall style tail lamps that would become a Buick hallmark and would even be seen on cars like the Riata in the 1980s. This car has the standard wheel covers that also say Electra 225 right there in the middle. Most of the time you see these cars with the road wheels on them, but I think that the wheel covers actually look quite good on this car. Now, another thing about this is the interior. This is, like I said, the limited interior, super thickly padded cloth. And you even have the pouch back here that you can put something in the seat back. And tons of room. Very rich, very cushioned. Mercury would copy this in the mid-1970s on their Marquee Brougham trim. This car also has the rim blow horn where you pinch the rim like that, and the horn honks. This one has the optional trumpet horn that you heard there. Has 4 horns on it. And as you look at the inside, you have the cell block unlocking power door locks. GM power door locks of this era were always pretty loud. I guess they wanted it to have that authoritative sound when you activated them. And as we crawl inside, This one's in great shape. All this faux wood grain here is not cracked. That's very typical on these for that to crack. This one has automatic climate control, but you notice there's no temperature markings, but it is automatic. So you can set this slider bar here to whatever temperature you want, and it'll automatically alter the overall climate control. I don't think any other car that I know did that. Didn't have markings on the automatic climate control. This also has the speed alert. You can see if I can zoom in, it says speed alert here. So this little dial you rotate, and notice it moves that little white index pointer. And if you cross that speed, the speedometer needle crosses that, it'll go and just have a terrible noise to it. This car also has a 2-speaker AM/FM radio. Buick did not offer a 4-speaker stereo in 1970, unlike other GM divisions. So you just get that speaker there, and you get one on the side and the rear, and that's it. Despite it having AM/FM stereo radio. So I don't know how they did that all that effectively with just 2 speakers. It also has the blower style rear defogger. It says defroster, but it's not really a defroster. It's just air that blows over the top of the back window through that vent. Now, GM had these molded headliners in later years. They always droop, but this one is super thickly padded and rich. And look at the visors. My favorite feature in Quirk. Buick, it's a beauty too. You have the mirror here as well, which has a little reading light incorporated into it. You move that switch and a reading lamp turns on. You also have the antenna here. It's tough to see. There it is in the glass. That was a feature that came out on the 1969 Grand Prix that would proliferate across the GM lineup. Some people loved it, some people hated it. Some people alleged it didn't have as good of reception to the radio. I never found them to be that bad, but I also wasn't living out in the country. And of course, this particular car has Buick's 8-track tape player, which I have not ventured to try. I had a fear that it'll consume a tape, but I don't really have any 8-track tapes either, so it's not a big deal. This car also has the safety door handle, so-called safety door handle, that's recessed into the armrest here so that you don't accidentally trigger it. It requires some conscious effort. This tray here is also notorious for corroding and looking terrible. This car obviously is in good shape. There's no pitting on this tray at all. These pull straps are also often not, let's say there and not, they've been separated. People will yank on them and they'll pull out and they're impossible to find now. But this car has it. This is all faux wood grain, but looks really tasteful. Interestingly, from an HVAC perspective, you only have 3 vents up front for the upper registers, the air conditioning. One there, and one here. And they tell you in the manual, if you want to get more airflow to the back, shut off the side vents or partially block them. They have little on-off rotating knobs here that forces more air out of this middle vent to the back, which you notice doesn't have an on-off switch. Of course, you have this car has the optional disc brakes up front. Buick's came standard with Buick's excellent aluminum fin drums. That was a Buick exclusive, still in 1970. This car has the optional, as I mentioned, disc brakes. As we look under hood, we have Buick's, as I mentioned, 1 year only 455. And you can tell the Buick V8s because they have the distributor up front. Cadillacs also had the distributor up front on GM cars, but these had the air conditioning compressor and the alternator on the same side. The power steering pump is over here on this side, but other GM V8s would have the alternator and the power and the air conditioning on differing sides. This one did not. So not quite sure why Buick elected to do that. Buick also had this exclusive, which was the engine coolant bottle here that was a white plastic. So Other divisions didn't have this. I don't know why Buick wanted to have that. Later models, I think starting in 1973, they had this all as part of the radiator assembly. You'd see a white fan shroud and a white overflow tank and a white washer tank as well. Here you have the cruise control transducer. This is the cable that comes in from the transmission. This goes into the dashboard. That's what controls the cruise. This car has the automatic level control as well. This is the compressor that controls that. It gets vacuum from the back of the engine over there. Interestingly, Buick has this little valve set up here such that you don't have the vacuum running to it unless the engine is off idle. And I suspect they did that because these compressors make a ticking noise continuously, and they didn't want people worrying about hearing that noise just at idle at a stoplight. So it only activates when the engine is above idle speed on these vehicles. But again, you've got Buick's exclusive 455. The one thing about these, the water pump and the timing cover here, that is a bear to change with all these little bolts that want to break off. Sometimes on Buick V8s, these oil pumps have issues. Not if you change the oil relatively frequently, you'll be okay. But overall, great engines. Slams with authority too. So quite a few little interesting features of the Buick. In 1970, the wind split molding was also gone. This was a time frame when safety was becoming more and more paramount, and the wind split molding was one of those things that's going to impale somebody if you hit them, the pedestrian impact. So they got rid of it. This car actually still has its original T3 headlights too. One of the reasons you can tell it's a factory original low mileage car. Just a beautiful, long, low vehicle in the true style of the day. I love kind of this crown motif where the fender, the quarter is up and then it goes down, then up, and then up again. Great looking car overall. And you've got the standard Fisher body door handles. By the way, if you want to open these, another quirk is if you lock it, you have to hold this button in while you close it. Otherwise, watch what happens to the lock plunger here. It pops back up, and then you can open the door. So you have to hold it like this and close the door like that. That's how they worked back in the day. That's not a defect. That was engineered in to be that way. Probably so you didn't lock your keys in the car would be my guess. So what do you think about this Electra? I love the 1970, like I said. They ride great, they drive great. Last year, the premium fuel V8, it was powerful. I think it was 375 gross horsepower, or somewhere in that zip code, 370, 375. So plenty of pep, very numerically low rear end ratio. 256:1 was standard on these cars. So on the freeway, actually, when I bought this car, I bought it in Louisiana and I drove it back from there, and I got 18 miles per gallon on the way back because of that numerically low ratio. Engine's not turning very fast. Consequently, it's not all that fast off the line, but I would say from about 40 to 90 miles an hour, that's second gear, and it pulls really hard at that speed. You can also see this was close to the last year for this shiny backed mirror. This is not body color painted, it's actually metal, and I think they got rid of that because if the sun were reflecting into the windshield, the oncoming car would kind of get blinded by the sunlight there. So this was the waning years for that little detail too. I hope you enjoyed this video on this 1970 Electra. Thanks again for watching.